My name is Jill Cole. I'm the president of Tennessee ARA, and I would love to welcome Krista Chapman. She is a business strategist and coach that's passionate about helping people build intentional businesses. She founded Path and Compass in 2011 after a career in event planning and hospitality. Path and Compass is a female-led holistic digital marketing agency that helps event and wedding companies build timeless brands, scale in their local markets, and navigate evolving digital technologies using their proven 5-path framework. I'm so excited to have her here today. I've personally known Krista for over 10 years. She has helped our company a lot over the years with many different things, and I'm happy to have her share all of her knowledge with all of you all. So welcome, Krista.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Jill, I appreciate that. Yes, we've known each other for a crazy long time, but really excited to chat with you all today. Definitely feel free to use the chat. I have Ansley from my team here, and she's going to be kind of stalking in the chat if you guys have any questions, or if I like randomly say some link, she'll work to get that in the chat just so that she can be available as a resource to you guys as I'm presenting everything. So. I do know that Deb had said that she's going to be sharing the recording and then sharing these slide decks. So don't feel like you have to, screenshot anything, although you're certainly welcome to. And then I'll also have time for questions at the end. But I'm also pretty relaxed, and we have kind of an intimate group here. So if I may kind of pause throughout and see if there's any questions as we go. So, but yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. So today we're going to be talking about leads. When you don't have enough of them, or when the leads that you're getting are just really not the right fit. In my work with rental companies all over the US, we are finding that there's a couple reasons for this drought in good leads. Often it's because you're either deferring your digital marketing, you're not keeping up with how digital marketing is continuing to evolve and expand, or your brand presentation is become dated, or it's just not aligned with the type of audience that you have evolved to serve, or the way the audience has evolved in the market and the way the generations have changed. In this presentation, we're going to be going through where your marketing might be out of sync, and how this increasingly digital shift, what kind of updates you can be making in a realistic way to not feel overwhelmed by the robots and all the stuff that's coming, but just find ways to kind of tackle it in a small and meaningful way in your company. So let's talk about the market today. I think it's really important to understand how today's buyer has changed, and is continuing to change. We're in a really interesting market. We have so many generations at the same time that are all in the buying space, and they all have different histories, different preferences, different ways of communication. And this can make it really challenging for companies to try to speak to everybody. And so I think it makes it all the more important to really understand who your ideal target market is, but also be looking to the future and make sure that we're aware of how things are going to be evolving. So a couple of things that we're seeing, well, let me say this first. There's really two key ways that I see to grow a rental business, and that's to go through your relationships and your partnerships. So this is something that your sales team is doing and building, and they're through biz dev and creating those ongoing partnerships that oftentimes create recurring revenue for you, or through your general public search. This is the digital marketing that we've talked about. So, and this general public search, this digital marketing space has trust is becoming a really important part of that, especially for younger audiences. So, and a lot of where we're seeing that is how much time they're spending researching. Gen Z will spend hours researching online before they even contact you. There was a recent survey from the Knot.com, which of course is speaking specifically to wedding couples, but I think it's a good representation of the generation, that on average, a couple will spend 6 hours a week researching before they even contact vendors. So they are searching your entire digital footprint, reading all your reviews, looking at all your social feeds. They're diving into Reddit feeds, and getting on, conversations and bridal forums and really, all kinds of different spaces to thoroughly research your company and and whether or not they can trust you. So it's also, I think, important to note that like Gen Z feels really young for a lot of us. The oldest Gen Z cohort is 28 years old. And so they are well in the market right now. You're also seeing millennials, they're in that 29 to 43 range. So that's kind of just to give you an idea of how that breaks down. But trust and transparency is a super important piece, especially for Gen Z. And transparency is where, are they able to find the answers to their questions quickly? Can they, are they having to dig a lot? Are they hitting lots of barriers? Because they'll pop off and just start going other places. And considering how much time they're researching, they've got so many tabs open, so many businesses that they're looking at, that if you're not, grabbing them or standing out or really quickly responding to them, you're gonna lose them. So the other really important piece here, besides the trust and transparency piece, is that how important it is for you to show up on search. If you don't show up on search, you do not exist to these younger audiences. And not only will the majority of clients interact with your website before they even contact you, they'll also use it as a way to validate you as well. Again, we kind of mentioned that trust piece. So the one thing that I think is really still important here, because it's really easy to start leaning really super heavily into this automation space, and let's get all the different digital tools and AI everywhere and all that kind of stuff. Relationships still really matter. And from my perspective, relationships are what's going to maintain that depth and human connection in this increasingly automated world. And so definitely, while we perhaps are a bit biased to the digital space, I really do see the importance of relationships and how that's going to continue to be a space that you guys are going to want to, continue to focus at least the lower portion of your sales funnel on. So moving on. So we've got mainly two problems here. The first one is that you're not getting enough leads. This oftentimes you're seeing because you have maxed out your lower funnel activities. So your lower funnel activities in a sales funnel is where your sales team is doing a lot of biz dev. They're, working to engage with those partnerships, those relationships, and things like that. And so you'll find that suddenly you kind of tap that out. Ways that you can check this, you'll notice that your traffic has either stalled or the total users in your Google Analytics is starting to drop down. You're not seeing really any growth or interaction on social feeds. And again, the conversion rates, the close rates on sales is still good, but growth is it's not going anywhere. So we essentially need to expand that funnel, that net, so that we bring people in through those top brand awareness areas in an effort to get more leads. So what do we do? Going back to that, can your prospects find you? Are you visible on search? That's really the place to start, is check your search visibility. So again, this is how they're going to find you, but also how they're going to validate you. When we start doing search, one of the easy ways that you can do this is just search yourself. I do recommend that you use an incognito browser to do this, so you don't have all your cookies and different kind of, tracking pieces when you do search. But use an incognito browser and search your company name, see what shows up. Search your different keywords and things that you expect your clients or potential prospects are searching for you. And also search in AI. Because that's another space that a lot of people are using now to find and look for companies or get feedback. So more specifically, you want to be thinking about the types of keywords and search terms that your ideal clients are actually searching. And so you want to be careful of like industry jargon and really focus more on long tail and specific keywords. So a long tail keyword is longer. That's sort of the point there. So instead of using something like tent rental, which is considered a high volume search term, you would use things more like Nashville wedding tent rental or, Middle Tennessee tool rental or, backhoe rental, that kind of space. But those types of things that are more specific, what they ultimately will help you do as you're building out your search visibility is they create a more complex and dynamic web. too often companies will kind of narrow in on those top high volume keywords, and you're competing for this really small space versus thinking more dynamically and reaching out to all this different web, because the bots and the AI tools are grabbing from that much larger space. So it's about really building a larger, wide reaching web versus focusing on kind of those, getting to the top page of like a high volume keyword. Spyfood.com is a good tool. It's free, or it's certainly a tool that you can sign up for, but there is some free content and information there that will give you an idea of how many organic search words you're ranking for and things like that. So the basic elements of search are still the same. You need to be using blogs and creating content consistently to feed those bots. You need to be thinking about, whether or not your website is optimized for mobile, does it load quickly? Those types of things all affect your SEO or search engine optimization. You also want to be mindful of maximizing your images. And this is a space I see a lot of rental companies kind of slide on, because I know it's a pain in the ass to keep up with all of your inventory images and things like that. But those images are really, really important in not only Google search and what's called Google Lens, which is the ability for people to like go online and snapshot something, and then they can see where other alternatives of that exist, either in their market or if they're shopping for, say, couches or something like that. But it's definitely bleeding into the rental market. And, we just see a lot of images importance from the Google side, but also from AI. AI uses images a lot when they're searching, because AI can actually read the images and the different elements of them. So think about your inventory catalogs. Pinterest is really great, obviously, for your wedding couples, but I think from like tool and equipment rental, if you're focusing on, say, like homeowners or anybody who's like maybe doing DIY projects and things like that, that would be a really great space to focus on. And then you do want to make sure alt tags are important with images as well. So online profiles, you want to make sure those are active and current. Reviews matter so much right now, and they're going to only increasingly matter. So not only do you have a lot of reviews relative to your competitors, they need to be recent, they need to be positive. AI is really leans into reviews when they're searching stuff. And be mindful, while Google is kind of the main space to focus on reviews, don't ignore Yelp. Yelp is coming up. When people search reviews for your company, it is a space that definitely gets a lot of rank in that space. So, and I think when it comes to AI, the way that AI searches works now, again, you have search that has been integrated into ChatGPT now. There is Perplexity, which is a search only AI tool. And I think it's really interesting to actually go to those tools and test your keywords and see what comes up. And you'll notice where they are pulling content from. You'll notice whether or not you're ranking. You'll notice whether or not what kind of images and things are showing up. But AI is pulling content from human conversations. So because, again, it's trying to learn from our conversations and the way that we interact and talk. So whereas Google and its SEO space is much more like keyword specific and kind of those shorter keyword phrases, AI tends to be a bit more conversational. You have a lot more specificity. People are asking them questions, where can I find modern furniture rentals with Black accents in the Middle Tennessee area, and so it's a much more specific piece than, furniture rentals or rental companies that you would get maybe on Google. So when you look at the sources from AI, they're pulling not only from your blog content, but you want to be thinking about shifting your blog content to be mindful of these more conversational tones and maybe some of these kind of DIY type questions, because that's what's being asked in AI. You also want to be thinking about your reviews, because the reviews are pulling a lot of, they're pulling a lot of content information from forums, Reddits, Substack, that kind of stuff. And then all the social conversations and things that are happening. And so that's where we're understanding that AI is pulling content from, and something that we're wanting to be mindful to start adapting for now. One of the differences between, if we all remembered like the mobile shift or even the social media shift, we had a decent amount of time to kind of do that and shift to those things. We're not going to have a lot of time with AI. It's moving so quickly that it's something that companies that have already well-established SEO are in a better place, but you do need to really start, actively building this stuff out and thinking about this to make sure that your company doesn't get too far behind too quickly, because we're dealing with much shorter timeframes in how this is changing. So it is a space I find fascinating. It's a space I probably spend way too much time in, but I really think, and it's a space that's constantly changing. And so, we're all really trying to kind of predict the future. And so I say all this, and again, I want to remind you guys of the relationship piece, because that's still going to be the piece that kind of, differentiates us and makes us different. But if we're looking to get more leads, this is the space that we're, that's going to start to take over those upper funnel spaces. So other places when you're not getting enough leads, we need to check. Are you running paid ads? Digital ads are often the fastest way to increase leads to your business. It is a fast fix. It allows you to target specific locations, specific ads, and even specific audiences. You do need to think about what the different digital ad platforms offer and focus your strategies accordingly. So Google, to me, is kind of the number one place to start if you're new to digital ads, or if you're looking to expand. Make sure that you're maximizing Google, because that's really still where the bulk of stuff is. Meta, which is your Facebook and Instagram, to me makes a lot of sense for more general, like brand awareness. When we have lots of pretty stuff, it's definitely a lot more visual space. A lot of, wedding and event spaces and things like that there too. I also like it if you have things that are like really unique, like maybe you have a brand new, gorgeous clear top tent that is just striking in the market. Meta and Instagram can be great for that. LinkedIn, really great for corporate and connecting to anybody with businesses. So that would be a much better fit, if you're trying to connect with, construction companies or contractors, or if you're wanting to, connect to corporate planners. And LinkedIn's great because you can really narrow down into like industry types, and even job titles in your ads. Pinterest is another ad space, but I don't oftentimes recommend it for companies like yours, because you all serve much more of local markets, and Pinterest can end up grabbing too much sort of national traffic. So it's great in kind of filling in the search engine space for images and things like that. Pinterest is a search engine, but it's not necessarily as great, at least in my experience, for ads. I mean, certainly if anyone has any stories or like, no, wait, tell me in the chat, because I'm like, you'll become my anecdote case study that I'll definitely want to know more about. So another thing to check too, again, if you're not getting enough leads, is that if you're relying too heavily on one marketing source. So again, this goes back to like, you have maximized your lower funnel. And if the bulk of your leads have been coming from one source, and that source dries up, or that source decides to retire, or that source, something happens, it will break your funnel. And so this is where, if we're wanting to create that steady growth and continue to have an increasing number of leads, we need to look at, varying where we're getting our marketings and where we're marketing our business. Okay. So moving on. Oh, too fast there. So problem number 2, you are getting leads, but they're the wrong fit. And we see this a lot, where people say, I'm getting all this traffic and just this, they're too low budget. They're not even in my location. This is just not the right fit at all. What do we do? So again, signs here, you want to look at, again, outside budgets, outside the location. You're getting ghosted after you initially contact them or send them information. They're just not responding. You're also seeing in your Google Analytics, your engagement time, your page view, or the events. And events is something specific to G4, which is the Google Analytics that was launched a couple of years ago. But if those things are down, they're just the actions that people are taking on your site and how engaged they are or not. So those are kind of indicators that you're getting the wrong leads. And also a dropping closing rate would be an indicator too. So what do we do? With the leads being the wrong fit, we're going back to, do the prospects resonate with you? Can they trust you? Are they finding answers to their questions? So that's the trust and transparency piece that the market is looking for. And if your website doesn't resonate with a client or with a potential prospect or client because the brand doesn't resonate, or you're not speaking to their pain points, or you kind of sound like every other rental company in the market, or there's not really any clear action on your website. This is where people will come. Again, they've got so many tabs open, and they'll just be like, you won't stand out, you won't grab them, you won't speak to them, and so, or you won't, prove that you're worth trusting, and so they'll move on. So this is where we want to look at I always look at the website and brand first. You really need to know and understand your ideal client or your ideal audiences, who it is you're serving, and what truly makes you stand out. Not what sort of makes you stand out or what you like to say, but like truly makes you different. Even to the point of controversial. Maybe not super controversial, but like a teeny bit controversial, because I think that we have younger audiences that are really kind of skeptical and jaded. And they really need to know that you align with them. I think this is probably a lot more the case when it comes to the wedding market than perhaps the corporate market. But, certainly a lot of those spaces, you're going to either grab people with a really unique brand, with really unique messaging, or you're not. So the one thing that I always look at when I go to a website and I'm above the fold, so this is what shows up on like a laptop screen or, your desktop monitor. And you should be able to answer within a flash on that homepage, who do you serve specifically? What problem do you solve for them? And why should they care? How is it compelling or resonate with them? And there should be a clear CTA or call to action. That should all happen within 2 sentences, maybe 3 sentences, and a button on your homepage. And many, many clients don't do this. Instead, what many clients will do is they will talk about themselves. So one of the points here you notice in my check on the slide there, is your website about your clients or is it about you? One of the great resources I like for this is Don Miller. He's actually based in Nashville, interestingly enough. He wrote a book called Story Brand, and he talks about the importance of being clear in your marketing and understanding that marketing is just you're telling a story, and you need to make sure that your story is clear. And every story has a beginning and a middle and end. It has a plot, and every story has a hero and it has a guide. So a great example of this is Star Wars. You have Luke Skywalker. He's the hero in that film series. He has a problem. He's trying to become a Jedi, not go to the dark side. And he has guides that help him along the way. He has Yoda, he has Obi-Wan Kenobi. Too often, companies will position themselves as Luke. And then the client will come in and say, well, that's interesting, but I don't know how this resonates to me, versus positioning themselves as the guide. You want your rental company to be the guide. And so you need to position your client as the hero and orient the messaging and the visual branding and really your entire digital home towards them. And this is how you're able to speak to these specific users and really specific audiences that are coming to your site and the actions you want them to take. So again, you can kind of see all the different things that we'll run through here, making sure that you are resonating, that images, again, are also continue to be really, really important here, and making sure that these showcase the types of events that you want to do, or the types of events that you're aspiring for, the types of industries that you serve, the range of rentals that you offer and how those rentals can be utilized. And then again, what's the next step? What action do you want users to take them and really funneling them further? So that's the bulk of where I focus if leads are the wrong fit, because we can do all of this upper marketing funnel stuff and brand awareness, and we can spend a ton of money on ads. But if you have a website that is poorly funneled, or the messaging doesn't resonate, or there's problems at that level, you're going to just break there, and you've spent a lot of money for nothing. So that's why I think it's really important, regardless of where you are needing support here, where where the leads have dried up for you. that you really look at your website and brand critically and think, is this actually aligned with what I'm, hoping to accomplish, and who, I serve best. Also, when you're looking at your social feeds, because again, they're looking at your social feeds and making sure that these are consistent and also, speaking to and visually connecting with your ideal client, and that your social feeds, your online profile, and your website are aligned. This is another mistake we see a lot, where you'll have disjointedness between this, or you'll have a social feed that hasn't been updated in years and years and years. If you're not going to use a social feed, totally fine. You don't have to use all of them, but have some way to kind of direct people or let them know, pin something to the top and just says, hey, we're over here at this place now, and this is the best way to connect with us. But making sure that there's consistency across those, I think, is a really important part of that trust and professionality. What else to look at if you're not getting enough, if you're getting leads, but they're the wrong fit? You want to check your targeting strategy. This goes a bit to the keywords and how you're, what types of audiences you're looking to connect with, and who you're excluding. And excluding is important as much as it's, to really truly say, I serve this type of person, you have to say, I do not serve this type of person, and understand what types of keywords need to be excluded, what types of locations, what type of marketing tools don't align or don't fit with the type of clients. For example, if you don't work in the corporate space at all, it's not really going to make sense for you to spend a lot of time and effort on LinkedIn. And so, being thoughtful about what types of audiences this is connecting you with. And then also being really transparent about those common questions and making that information really easy for people to find, so that they're not having to dig through stuff, or they're getting through your inquiry process and then you're like, oh no, that's like not even in our budget space. So by using some of this stuff to weed people out, essentially, is what you're doing. That can help make sure that not only are the people that are getting into your sales funnel more appropriate, but it also gives the right information to the bots and to the AI tools to say, oh, this is the type of person that they want, or this is the type of keywords and things that are best aligned. So it keeps everything kind of lined up there. The other thing I want to talk about, which is more of a border between the upper and lower funnel of your marketing and sales, is email marketing. And I want to talk about this because it doesn't necessarily bring you leads, and it doesn't necessarily, but what it can do is it can educate and nurture users into the ideal client. So you can certainly get someone that's maybe not a great fit, or someone maybe who doesn't really know everything about your company. If you can get them onto your email list, have an automation that educates them, or introduces yourself, or builds that relationship with them, it can be a really great way to do that. So we also find too that email has a significantly higher conversion rate than social media. A lot of companies will put emphasis on social because that's kind of where the trends are. That's where, all the flash and bang, and let's focus on social. You will, get engagement rates and open rates. I guess not really engagement rates on social, single percentage points. You'll get significantly higher open rates in your email. And this is ending up also in a much more intimate space, people's inboxes, versus in the scroll feed, where who knows where they are, if they're paying attention, if it's just like a dopamine, like I just need to zone out type space. So I think it's a really great way to remain top of mind with partners, with past clients, with current clients, and it also is a space that a lot of businesses don't do well. So there's a lot of opportunity here if your company can do email consistently well, and that's something that can work to kind of evolve those leads into a better fit, or into just understanding that this is just kind of how the process works, and this is how we can best align. And oh, by the way, partner or past client, did you know we offer this, and those types of things. So email can be really great for those uses. Okay, so tactically, what do we do? So when growth has stalled, I really think the best thing you can do is take a look at your marketing strategies. As a company, Path and Compass will generally review marketing strategies for our clients between 2 and 4 times a year. Now, of course, this is what we do. So I certainly don't expect, if you're kind of managing your marketing in-house to do that. But if you haven't looked at your marketing in a year, it's probably a really good indication that you need to be double checking tools and making sure things are still aligned with the goals that you have for your growth, with the way that the market has maybe changed, especially right now, because there's a lot of changes in the market, but also, whether or not there's things that need to be evolved to sort of fit where the technology is going. So the areas that we will look at when we're assessing marketing strategies, again, are the market itself, what's going on, what's happening in the world as we know it, what generations, how are they changing, how are buyers changing, what new technology is available, is there are new buying trends, is there new marketing tools, how do they fit, do they align with the ideal client, with the goals, ideal audiences, and the goals that we have for our company. So those are things we want to kind of look at as a first sort of overarching thing. And then from there, looking at your keyword strategy and your SEO content, the blogging you're doing, Pinterest, image search, again, AI, and how all that stuff is working together, the website and branding, your ad performance, online listens and reviews, social content performance, social content, how that's performing, as well as how consistent it is, and then again, the email marketing. So we have put together what we call our 5-path framework at Path and Compass, and this essentially creates a comprehensive digital marketing strategy that includes an aligned brand and a well-designed website that is optimized for search. It has targeted digital ads that, again, are building your brand awareness and capturing the search volume of the audiences that you're looking to connect with. Ongoing content that helps with SEO. So again, those are your blog posts, those are your images that you're creating, be them through your inventory images and maximizing what your inventory catalog allows and making sure that those are really good, high quality images, or images in your galleries on your website, your blog posts, things like that. You have active social media. That's another thing that we also are looking at. You're also encouraging reviews and keeping your online profiles up to date. So this is where, it's easy to kind of overlook some of that stuff. So one of the things that we will do is set a quarterly optimization task for all of our clients. And this basically is a way for us to make sure that we're going and looking at all the online profiles, all of the reviews, all of your links and different things like that. Is it all accurate? Is it what is it aligned with where you're currently at? Has it been kept up to date? Things like that. So that's kind of a cheap way to do that. And then again, the last piece of that would be the nurturing your leads through sending regular emails. So website, brand, digital ads, SEO, social media, and online reputation management through reviews and profiles, and then your email marketing. So that's really kind of big space of where you want to look in all those areas. One more thing I also want to point out. It's not always your marketing, because marketing bleeds into all parts of your business. And you can have the most amazing digital marketing, the most beautiful website, and the most beautiful, effective ads. But if your sales or operation team is struggling, it will break your funnel at the most crucial part of the sales process. So also look at that. I think it's important to, be asking yourself and reviewing, is your sales team responsive? Do they need more support? Do they understand how to sell our products? Are they staying engaged with current / past clients and partners? Again, that email marketing piece, or just, kind of reach out, that relationship building. Is your operations team doing stellar work? Because they have to be. You really need to depend on them, and sort of they make such a big impact on your reviews. And so, the operations team can be really crucial in the idea of surprising and delighting clients, bringing coffee onto a job site to a partner, or, just having some sort of, creative leave behind or things like that. I think it's a really great way to make sure that it's easy for clients then to naturally leave you great reviews. And I think the other thing too about the sales and operations team, it's really important to think about how they are closing out the client experience. So post-event, post-rental process. Too often we close it out, we get the check, we move on to the next thing. We're sort of always focused on the intake, the planning and whatnot. There's a lot of opportunity on that back end, and properly closing out event and the follow-up and surveys and reviews and, figuring out ways to get them into, I call it the tank of the funnel. And so you have your marketing funnel, you're working to get everybody in it, close the sale, you have the experience with your business, and then you have this tank, and your tank can be a sieve, and all of the clients you've worked with and partners that you've spent all this effort and time building good rapport with and relationships could just flow right out because you're not maintaining that with them. And so that again goes back to that point of why relationships are still really key in this part of the of your team, is where I think there's the most opportunity. And it can be really easy to get overlooked just because we get busy and all of those types of things. And so the more that you can lean into automations and systems here, and just have checklists, not only for the pre-event or the pre-rental process, but also for the post follow-up. And, here's the things we need to make sure that are taken care of, putting away and cleaning equipment, but also making sure that the customer or client has been contacted and thanked and has been set up for re-engagement in some way. So it's certainly, we all know it's much, much cheaper to acquire a customer you already have than it is to go out and acquire new customers and get in front of new people. So, okay. So wrapping up here, and then I definitely want to open this up for questions, and we can dig into any specific stuff. If you guys want to dive more into specific marketing strategies or SEO or search stuff, we can definitely do that. But the big key takeaways that I have for you guys is, let me just slide back there. Sorry. So digital marketing is going to continue to be important, and it's only going to evolve more and more with AI. So this is a space that if you feel like your company is lacking, if you feel like you're uncertain about anything here, it's really yesterday was a great time to get started. So, we don't want to delay on this kind of stuff. We just don't have the kind of time frame that we did when we were shifting to, mobile websites or getting on board with social media. This is something that it's very quickly gonna, you're gonna have companies that do this well, and they're gonna start to move into market. I hate to use the word domination, but they're going to capture larger shares of the market much more quickly if they're whoever's doing this well. The biggest opportunities that I currently see in 2025 are with SEO and email marketing. If you are looking to put your energy anywhere, those are the two spaces. If you need leads fast, though, digital ads. And digital ads, though, you need to make sure that your website and brand are aligned. Otherwise, there's a lot of opportunity to waste money there. So, and if you have one action step, if you do nothing else from this presentation, focus on your reviews. That will be the space more than absolutely anything that will have the biggest impact from, the way I see it here into the future. And there are a lot of really great tools and software and automations that can automate this stuff. So whether or not you are utilizing some of those, they essentially will line up with your CRMs or with your inventory software and send out automatic prompts to ask people for reviews, either through email or text messages. And then if the review is positive, it gets shared everywhere. If the review is maybe less than positive, it gets funneled internally so you guys can, fix the problem, make it right. And that sort of helps. So those are spaces that can make that a little bit easier and more proactive, because it's really a space that is super, super important. So questions? Anybody have anything they're wondering about?
when you're talking about reviews, Chris, I was just thinking helpful for everyone. Like, what is like, how many reviews should a company be focusing on, like a goal per week? Like, is there a standard that would be good for everybody to like shoot for, or what do you think?
I think what I would look at is the number of reviews that your competitors, and you want to make sure you have more. So
Okay.
I think, and I will say this, the percentage is most important. So you want to make sure that you have a high ranking, but the quantity, I would aim for more. So I think if that might be something where it sort of depends, on the size of your rental company and the number per week, but that's what I would compare it to, is your competitors and the reviews that they have on Google. That's probably the first benchmark. And then I'd also, because Yelp isn't used as much, but a lot of times we'll run across people who haven't like claimed their Yelp profile or aren't really paying attention to their Yelp profile. And they'll have like a couple really, really bad reviews on Yelp that are like tanking that rating. And then that's where you'll have people who are, as they're digging into all your stuff and then they're deciding whether or not they should reach out to you. They're like, oh man, look at these horrible Yelp reviews. Because that's a thing that younger generations are really doing a lot, is they're getting into like the Reddit forums and they're talking about like, what was your experience here? Does anyone know about this company? And like, it's kind of, it's challenging because there's not a lot you can do about that other than make sure that you're always doing really good work. And trying to obviously address any sort of negative review in a public way so people can see that you care.
Gotcha. So if someone doesn't have like, I'm just saying like the automated systems, like if someone's not that big or that fancy, just having their sales staff just once a week build your client like, hey, let's take these 5 clients, we know they're happy, and then you email all of them with a direct link to your Google or Facebook links. Good strategy to start with. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would build out a system as part of your event or rental closeout. So after, that checklist of what you're doing after every single client experience, that you're reaching out to them. And it might be an initially versus like, hey, leave us a review. It's more of like a survey. How did everything go? What, any feedback for us, any ways that our team really stood out or ways they can improve. And then when they do say, oh, that was amazing, you say, I'd love for you to like leave this on Google. Here's a link. If you could share that kind of stuff is how I would have a sales team do that. And yeah, it doesn't have to be automated. And then the other thing too, reach out to your partners and friends, because this is something that can be an easy way to kind of get like a jolt, so to speak. If you've been a little bit lax in this space, is to connect with all of your frienders or other partners and ask them for reviews.
Okay.
I really like the idea of the post opportunity process. When we were an independent, and we pushed heavily on that, it was highly effective. We would do something personal. I'd have my counter guys write a little handwritten note as the person's walking out the door from returning that sander or returning all the stuff from the wedding, and they put it in the bin. We'd mail it out. From the wedding standpoint, we'd have a person come in and do a wedding. We spend all this time with them, getting everything, all these intricate details, getting set up out there on site, and then we'd never hear from them again. And it's because they would think of us as the wedding people and not necessarily the birthday party people or all these other things. So we would send these posts, hey, I'm glad you did all this with us. Or, remember it when so-and-so, if we remember their kid or whatever they're in the process, hey, remember us for their birthday. We have these great opportunities. And it was a huge thing.
Yeah, I think that that's really great. It's something that a lot of companies just don't do. And so when you do it, it's like, whoa, what is this? It really stands out. And everyone can automate stuff. That's the thing. It's like it's this race to grab this digital space. But the personal touch is only something that you can do. And the more creative you can be. Yeah, I do love the idea of like, even having like, a really great onboarding process as well. And that could be utilized through emails and saying, here's what you can expect. Or maybe there's like a quick video welcome from, the sales director or from the company president. And, having handwritten notes, I think are great, or little tiny gifts and candies. And, we've done survival kits, sort of like a seasonal thing and for partners and all that kind of stuff. So it really does make a big difference. And again, because most people just aren't doing this well. Any other questions? Or was I just so good that we have no questions?
Any other questions from anybody? Well, Krista's email and all of her information will be emailed out, and the video recording after we finish, probably within the next couple days from ARA. I just want to thank everybody for coming, spending your lunch hour with us today, learning something new. And I just appreciate all of you coming here today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I, really appreciate it. And yeah, definitely feel free. Our website is pathandcompass.com. That's a great way to get in touch with me directly as well. If you guys think of a question later and you're like, oh wait, what about this? And then obviously you can follow us on the socials. As we
and everybody's going to start sending out Google reviews today. We're all gonna amp up.
You're all gonna reach out to each other.
Right.
All right.
Got it. Well, thank you everybody so much. And I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.